are slaughtered, lots of blood and death goes on. It's bad, but it's good for Rome. So the big change here is that the previous Roman armies, while not necessarily as effective as the army that Marius has created, were loyal to the institution of the Republic because they were Roman citizens, they were on the same team as the Roman government, everyone had similar interests in the pursuit of the wars. The new Roman soldiers are loyal to the Republican generals because those are the people that are ensuring that they get paid, those are the persons on whose their fortunes rise and fall. So that's bad for the Republic. So in the next, I'm going to try and erase this, in the course of the next century, the Republic is stricken with a series of civil wars in which successful generals are either convinced by their troops or convinced by themselves that they should be the people in sole command of their country, which eventually leads to, in 49 BC, the revolt by Gaius Julius Caesar, who I know you have all heard of, against the Roman government itself. The issue is settled at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, at which Caesar defeats Pompey, who is commanding the Republican forces, which is sort of ridiculous also because Pompey was the dude who was like taking control of the Republic before Caesar was the dude taking control of the Republic. The only reason he suddenly discovered a democratic turn late in life is because he got old and ineffective. So that happens in 49 BC, and more civil wars ensue over Caesar's heirs and all that. You don't need to know that stuff. It's not that interesting. The crux of all this is that in 31 BC, at the Battle of Actium, Caesar's heir, Octavian, who's also his nephew, is able to prevail. In 27 BC, the Senate gives him the title Augustus, which means deeply respected one, and the new system of government of the Roman Empire is created. So this seems to have resolved the conflict because in the person of the emperor, the commander-in-chief of the military and the head of state are theoretically the same person. The issue with the consuls is that the consuls were elected by the Senate, and supposed to be in command of the troops were not always particularly great commanders. In fact, frequently were not very good commanders at all, as we see during the Cimbrian War. So the emperors are supposed to have the full loyalty of the troops. The problem is that Augustus deliberately leaves this very ambiguous, so he can kind of enjoy all parts of the pie. He wants to be loved by the people as a great Democrat. His official title is Princeps, which means first citizen, but he also wants to command the full loyalty of the soldiers. So things go as they do. In 68, there's a bit of a hiccup because the Emperor Nero is assassinated, and the empire is contested by 4 generals from various parts of the empire, the year of the 4 emperors. But one of these emerges victorious, the Emperor Vespasian, and happiness ensues. The point being that it doesn't actively lead to a rupture in the system. What does lead to a rupture in the system starts happening in 180. So in 180, the Roman Empire has expanded to include all of the territory from Hadrian's Wall, which is today it's in very far southern Scotland, but you can think of it as the furthest northern reaches of England, Spain, France, all of North Africa until the edges of the Sahara, Greece, southern Germany. Actually, the Roman Empire, people always like the Roman Empire didn't control Germany. The Roman Empire controlled quite a bit of Germany. It did not control, like, Hamburg, but no one wants Hamburg. It was, like, pretty far expanded. I tried to describe it on that. So this is the Roman Empire during the reign. Oh, also they had, this is Dacia, which is part of Romania. So the Roman Emperor is Marcus Aurelius, who you may remember from the film Gladiator, which is played by Richard Harris. Marcus Aurelius dies of the plague in 180 and is succeeded by his son, Commodus. You also may remember Commodus from Gladiator, in which he is played by Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix gives him kind of a, like, daddy didn't love me, so I'm screwed up spin, which, you know, may well be true. Historically speaking, though, he was mostly just lazy and enjoyed fighting in the arena more than actually governing the empire. This worked out okay for a little while because Marcus Aurelius had been a really good emperor. He spent most of his reign fighting this group called the Marcomanni on the frontier here. For the first 2 centuries of the Roman Empire, things have been pretty quiet on the Germanic frontiers, and the emperors usually didn't have to fight more than 1 or 2 barbarian groups at once. In 170, actually, the Marcomanni had successfully penetrated northern Italy, which is the first time that had happened since the Cimbrian Antigenes, which was 200 years earlier at this point. But they had been pushed back by Marcus Aurelius. So Commodus reigns for 12 years. Things finally come to a head in 192 when part of Rome burns down, and Commodus decides to refound the city as Colonia Commodiana, which means Commodus City, and then rename the various months of the year after himself. And because he had we call him Commodus, but the Roman emperors had 12 names. So it was Lucius Verus, Commodus, Augustus, Felix, Commodus again. So he just named all the months after various parts of his name. And so people got really weirded out by this, and he was murdered in December 31st. So 193 starts off. That's basically, this also happened to Turkmenbashi in Turkmenistan. When you get to the point when you're naming months of the year after yourself, you should say, cut back. You have drunk too fully from the cup of tyranny. So,
what about July, August?
Yeah,
only one of them is
but they were dead by that point. We're allowed to name months after people. If I named a month like Churchill, that would just be awesome. We should name February Churchill. Anyway, so 193, January 1st, 193, sees the ascension of Pertinax. And at first, everyone thinks things are going to be okay. Rome has had really terrible emperors before. It has also had really incompetent emperors before, and they have frequently been killed by the Praetorian Guard in particular. The Praetorian Guard, we're going to see a lot of the Praetorian Guard here today. The Praetorian Guard is sort of like the mustache-twirling villain of the crisis of the 3rd century, because it frequently appears to kill people, competent and incompetent alike. Praetoria, Castra Praetoria was the name of. So the commander of a Roman army was originally called a praetor way back when. So Augustus founds this institution, the Praetorian Guard, which is his personal bodyguard. They are the only troops allowed near the city of Rome. That was great for Augustus because Augustus commands the undisputed loyalty of the Praetorians, but no one else does. So generally what emperors do to deal with Praetorians is they bribe them or try and move them further away from the city and otherwise keep them out of trouble. But the Praetorian prefect, which is today the commander of the Praetorian Guard, prefect, like in Harry Potter, the Praetorian prefect is a position of enormous power in the Roman Empire, usually second only to the emperor himself. So Pertinax becomes emperor, and Pertinax has a problem, which is that Pertinax doesn't want to be like Commodus. Commodus had to keep bribing the troops not to kill him. Pertinax wants things to go back to the reign of Marcus Aurelius when the empire was well governed and, peace and prosperity reigned, and well, not peace, but prosperity reigned, and everyone was really in love with the emperor, and the emperor was sort of a stone philosopher. So he knows that this is not going to be popular. How do we know that he was aware of this? Well, he doesn't name his son he doesn't give his son or his wife imperial titles. He only takes it for himself. So he's very aware of how much danger he is in. And whenever, so there's these things called donatives, which are basically just bribes to the troops. You give every soldier a certain amount of gold at a certain point in your reign. Augustus started doing this, and it really got out of hand by the late 2nd century. Commodus promised the soldiers about 5,000 gold pieces, I believe, at one point in his reign. So when Pertinax comes to the throne, the Praetorian Guard wants a big bribe to be showered upon them as well. The problem is that Commodus, spent a lot of money, so the Roman Empire is no longer in possession of enough gold to just arbitrarily hand out to the Praetorians. So Pertinax says, well, we don't have that. As a result, the Praetorian Guard storms the imperial palace. Pertinax is encouraged to flee, but he decides that he can talk to them and reason it out. Don't do this, because you would be killed, which is what happened to him. So his reign lasted 83 days. After he is killed, which happens in March of 193, March 28th, I think, the Praetorian prefect, whose name is Quintus Aemilius Laetus, decides that he is going to give the empire to whoever promises them the biggest bribe, the largest donativum.